Good evening, everyone. It's very unfortunate to stand between drinks and doing this session. But anyways, bear with us. We'll try to make it a little interesting. Hopefully, I'm Angad. I lead product management for FarEye, but I've been working at the intersection of technology and supply chains for last 15 years, working with global customers across Europe, US, and Australia. I live here in Netherlands. Glad to be part of this session. And over to you, Pavel.
Thanks, Angad. So my name is Pavel. I'm working with D2C, so it's Electrolux name for direct to consumer. Basically, it's Ecommerce. B2C in a different world as well. Working with the supply chain capabilities for D2C. And it's a lot of fun, this business. It's new for me in a way, like 2 or 3 years in this role. Previously B2B guy for 15 years more, so was working on various companies based in Sweden. And today, so big and bulky. Before I start, I just put a question to the audience. Have any one of you ever ordered a fridge through e-commerce channels? Okay, quite a few. So then the question, so why is delivering a fridge harder sometimes than selling one? I want to take you through this as sample order. So this kind of fridge we sell in Poland. It's 4 doors, it's a side-by-side fridge. It weighs about 100 kilos, even more. It needs 4-man handling. The order was requested to be delivered on the 3rd floor. There is no elevator. The customer also requested for the installation. And with all this, the customer expects that this is all going to be done within 2 hours. And to make it worse, it was in a remote area. So when I asked the AI just to try that, how would you picture a delivery man puzzled with this complexity? That was a picture that AI produced. This bulky products is a pain for B2B flows, right? It's a challenge. But for D2C, it can easily become a nightmare for the logistics team. And the question that I want to put out here today is why we are still trying to solve this complex 2025 logistics issues with 2010 logic. So I'm coming from Electrolux, so I need to present the company a little bit, just to give you a background. What is Electrolux Group? Electrolux Group is a leading global appliance manufacturer. We have been shaping living for the better for the last more than 100 years. 12 billion sales, 120 markets covered, and 45,000 employees working for this wonderful company. Just a quick perspective on the regions where we sell. So we are present around the world, but the majority, of course, coming from Europe and North America. We manufacture 3 brands: Electrolux, AEG, and Frigidaire. In terms of our product portfolio, so it's quite wide, but we can basically summarize it into 3 categories. Well-being, which is small appliances, typically parcel deliveries in the logistics world. Some mixers or vacuum cleaners, so that's 8% of our portfolio. Care, that's the washing machines or dry tumblers. That represents about 30%, it's the second largest group. And the third one, the biggest one, is the taste, the group that we call taste. It's ovens, hobs, and fridges and all these things. All the things that help us to make the meal taste better. So this is the portfolio of the products for Electrolux overall, but I'm representing e-commerce. So in e-commerce, the share of well-being products is much larger. So market by market, it can be between 10 to 50%. But still, 50% of the products at least is the major appliances. And when you work with these major appliances, then the delivery becomes your basically make it or break it point. Narrowing down a little bit on the e-commerce channels that we have. So we have two main ones, open channels as we call them. So one of them is the branded store. It's our Electrolux or AEG portals where the consumers go directly to us and buy services from products from us, but they also buy services. And they buy premium products. They expect premium service. So we have to deliver that. Marketplaces, that's the second biggest channel for e-commerce in our case. So Amazon, Rakuten, etc. So you know them. So here the story is a little bit different. So consumers go to the marketplace to shop, but it's marketplaces that are putting requirements on us. And then really enforce it by really tough SLAs, which we have to deliver. The third channel is a little bit small, it's 25%. It's mainly for the partnership, friends and family, and employees as well. Now, just also to give you a perspective on the growth of this volume. So we started 4 years ago. So e-commerce was not existing in Electrolux 4 years ago. And 4 years after that, we shipped 500,000 products already. So it's growing fast, and you can see that the curve ahead is pretty steep as well. So the presence on this, online is already not news for us. It's already in the past, but what is the current challenge for us is to meet the consumer expectations on Amazon type of the delivery. Fast, traceable, precise. And to work with that, so we're basically going through the consumer offer, where we puzzle ourselves all the time around these three elements: the services, geographies, and cost. So services, what is the challenge within this area? Installations. So if you can think about the installation, so when you order the appliance and you want to get it installed, you think, okay, so how many services can be in installation? In our case, we have 50 plus services that we have to manage. And installation needs to be perfectly timed with the with the delivery. Because, for example, you order a fridge, you maybe took a day off from work to have it delivered. You will deliver it, but the technician who needs to install didn't come. So what it means, you need to take maybe another day off. So would you be happy with this experience? Especially from the premium brand that you expect to be all on time and precise. Of course not. So this would make you to rank us eventually quite bad. Stayers or weights of products, of course, is a challenge. I already mentioned that. We are delivering heavy products, and often we need to bring them upstairs. And I guess people who live in the Netherlands, they also know about this challenge. It's quite often the white goods, so it's a white glove, so it's 2 or 4 man handling products. So that's type of service we also need to arrange. And of course, this consumers sometimes offer removals as well. So again, not only install the fridge, but the provider comes and needs to deinstall the product first and then take it back. So that's another challenge and another service that we have to consider. In terms of geographies, so we have remote areas, of course, in all the countries, right? So, away from the big cities. And even the person lives in a flat in the center of Paris or lives somewhere in the Nordic or Arctic Norway, they would still expect the same kind of service. They would still expect the premium service. And this service we have to deliver with a limited capacity as well. because we're dealing also with the periods when, for instance, Black November happens, right? And then basically everyone buys at the same time, and we need to deliver, and we cannot afford the experiences like we previously had in Sweden, where consumer ordered a product, say a washing machine, and then had to wait for installation for 5 weeks. This is not a good experience for sure. Resource constraints. So all these installation services, or not all, but a lot of them are being regulated now. So when it comes to the water installations or gas installations or electric installations, you need special technicians doing that. It's not like anyone can do that. Of course, there are simple installations where the consumer just comes, the carrier just comes and installs the item and just connects it to the socket, and that's it. It's done. But in some cases, it's really complex. Regional SLAs, so different markets, they expect different service levels. UK could be, even next day delivery expected for the major appliances, whereas maybe in Italy, the consumer can wait a little bit longer. Marketplaces, again, I already mentioned that they really impose and they really enforce us to meet the requirements, which is market standard. In this case, especially that's visible in Asia, we're working with a lot of marketplaces in Asia as well. They put at least 2 or 3 SLAs, which is very difficult to deliver them. For example, Shopee would require to deliver the major appliance within 12 hours. Basically, same day in delivery. They're required to ship that, within the same day. Or if the order came in the afternoon, the day after is allowed. And if you do not meet these SLAs, what marketplaces do? They penalize. They basically give you a point, so you missed that. And then after you reach certain statuses of these points, they first maybe delist you from the campaigns, so you cannot really participate on all these promotions in the marketplace, so your sales go down. The next can be that, I don't know, you even at the end they can even delist you completely in case you do not really comply to the SLAs for a long time. So it's quite challenging in terms of the geographies requirements and all the SLAs products, SLA requirements as well. And of course, cost, it's a big part of that. So we are working with limited margins. It's a competitive market, white goods. And since it's a big appliances, then we have challenges when it comes to the failed deliveries or missed installations. So the carrier brings the appliance to the house and the customer is not there. So the carrier takes it, goes back, puts it in a warehouse, back on the shelves or on the racks, on the floor, and then calls back to the consumer, arranges this another time, delivers it again. Maybe customer again is not home. So this can repeat for 3 times at the most. I guess most of the carriers do not allow more than 3 deliveries. So, but every time they do that, they charge. They charge extra. Same happens with the missed installations. A customer requested for the installation, but we deliver it, for instance, a hob, electric hob. And then the consumer doesn't have the right socket or doesn't have the right electric power in this socket. So the installation cannot be complete and the consumer fixes this, and then the technician comes back and charges us. That's what happens. So all these failed deliveries, missed installations, they basically can erode the margin that we have. As simple as that. Damages, when we handle the products back and forth all the time, the portion of this damaged product becomes really, really big. And of course, the cost of services. So that's probably one of the key points, right? Because the logistics, we have to be careful about the cost, right? So when we select the carriers, we need to offer a certain portfolio of their services. So some consumers expect, for instance, carrying that the product is delivered at home. Some consumers expect the delivery to a certain area. Some consumers expect the delivery just on the street. So all the services we need to have in our portfolio. Some carriers offer them, all of it, but then they probably are really good in installation and the carry-in service, so there is nobody better than them. But then they will charge premium also for the curbside delivery. And that we don't know what. So we would like to have a proper curbside delivery cost as well. So we need to manage actually a portfolio of carriers. So the most important is that what is in the middle, the customer offering. The consumer has the same expectations. They don't, really care about, all these things behind the scene. They order it installation, they order it time slot, they order it that it's going to be taken on the third floor. They order the removal, they live somewhere far away. They, they potentially also want a specific day or specific time. So they expect that all this will be done according to what they have booked. So, and for us to manage these expectations, right, we need to make sure that we orchestrate all these things properly. And we have to orchestrate that when we create the consumer offer, because that's the way for us to manage the expectations. So if the offer is not what we can deliver from the very beginning, of course we will fail. So for us, it's important to show that we can deliver this service, we can come on this time, we can deliver upstairs, etc. And this offer that is being generated needs to happen within milliseconds. When you're on the website, selected the items, you click button next, and the page is loading for maybe 1 second at most. And this is the time all these things needs to be arranged and orchestrated so that the offer that the consumer can see is relevant and valid and right. These things we cannot manage with the 2010 solutions. That's why we actually turned to AI, and that's why actually we decided to partner with FarEye. So now I'll give the floor to you now.
Thanks, Pavel. So I think Pavel really well explained the challenges. It feels like a doomsday. Will all of this really happen in a millisecond? Then there's a flip side to this, which I think all of us are here for, which is the moment you put AI and Gen AI in any topic today, you are bound to have at least this much audience listening to it, right? So the problem is that we have been given with a very beautiful hammer of AI, and with all the big techs and everyone pouring in billions of dollars each week, if we go by their stats, I think all of us intuitively feel that Gen AI is the solution to almost all of our problems. But the truth is that most of us are here supply chain leaders / actors, and we know that we are talking about something which is tangible and which needs to be moved. So there are things which are, as Pavel alluded to, 2010 tech, and data silos still exist, and we are still thinking that probably this doomsday, all problems will be solved with Gen AI. Well, and all of us know that it's easier said than done with those data silos. And I think just before we go into the solutions and what exactly AI is doing to solve some of these problems, which we will share, which is our intention of doing during this session, I just want to call out, because we all use ChatGPTs these days, of course, and all the Gen AI models. Gen AI generally doesn't revolve only around Gen AI, by the way, right? Gen AI is one of the several practices of AI. AI has existed since 1950s. We all know that. But for example, the simulation and optimization or non-generative machine learning techniques these are the things that have existed since already decades. And a lot of us have already invested in some of these technologies, and we're still trying to make ROI out of it. But I think it's important to understand that, it's a business case that we are trying to solve. So Gen AI, of course, we will implement in wherever we can, but these are all several practices which can help us solve some of these problems. And how will they help us solve some of these problems? I think what we intend to do, of course, right now in the rest 25 minutes is actually talk about 3 specific examples which will solve the problem that Pavel was alluding to, of an order coming in and all those decisions to be done within milliseconds, and then how AI really helps in that. The first step to that usually, and there are 3 examples that we are going to run you through, and let's try to think about this as tangible application of AI, that's one, but more from a persona perspective as well. So for example, the first leg of it is the carrier determination itself, with all these complexities that Pavel spoke about, which is, how can we become smart with our carrier optimization? If we go back to the problem, leaving aside AI, if we go back to the problem, truth be told, the real problem actually is that one missed fridge gets tweeted like this, and then it gets reshared like amazingly beautifully by a lot of people, but a perfect delivery score never get tweeted like this. That's the sad side of it, and that's a human nature that all of us have, right? And we all live with this daily, right? And hence the issues. And I think we spoke about some of these things, but just in the interest of time, let's get to the why. Why really it is complex? What is making this happen? So right now we are thinking about just an order, which has not been placed, by the way. It's at the checkout. And the things that it needs to go through is determination of location. Which warehouse will it get fulfilled from? Carrier. Which carrier is the best one to actually fulfill it, depending on the multiple parameters? Which carrier can do the service? Let's say in big and bulky use case, installations, or, there are by the way, there are wet connections when you are, putting, let's say, entire kitchen. There are dry connections. Each of them have different complexities. These are skills. So you're not routing, by the way, for a delivery. You are routing for skills, just so that, when we are talking about these complexities. And then there are slots. There are customer expectations. And on top of it, because we are in 2025, majority of CEOs of all of our organizations are prioritizing growth. The supply chain leaders now have an inherent focus of how can you monetize these delivery services. Some of us have already started doing it. Some of us are still in that journey of understanding how we can really monetize these delivery options. But that's us aligning with our CXO's needs. And all of this needs to happen, again, in milliseconds. And that's the complexity. That's where, if we look at some of the complex, busy slides of all our supply chains, I've tried to, kind of simplify a bit over here. But this is how some of our supply chains look like. There are 3-4 carriers that we have: a DHL, a Hermes, a Koban, a regional player. Each have their own, capabilities and positives and negatives. Someone can deliver better in Germany versus someone can deliver better in Netherlands, versus someone can really service as well as deliver, versus someone can do only service and not deliver. And in midst of all of that, there are certain dense areas where if we start putting our own fleet, especially big companies like IKEA or Electrolux, then there's a lot of cost optimization to be had. But now just think about a point in that particular geo where there is a overlapping geography of that actually 3 key areas can do. There is actually a geography, and this is how our supply chains mostly look like. And that's where we are thinking of multiple dimensions of what decisions to be made, which carriers to choose from. Serviceability is just one aspect of it, which is which carriers can service what. SLAs is the other aspect of it. And I don't think I'm sharing anything new, to be honest, but what I'm trying to say over here is we all have a BI analytics platform that we would have implemented at our organization. And all of this data we have. Most of us have this data. But let's go back and really think, is it connected to the checkout? Or is our BI analytics just a post-mortem that all of us are doing? which is, by the way, 90% of the times when we are discussing with the customers, that's what is happening. And what we are saying over here is, if there is a order that can be done by 3 carriers, you also want to know which of the carrier A, B, or C is performing better in that particular region from a SLA adherence perspective. In Netherlands, PostNL always has way better SLA adherence, 98% plus, than some of the other carriers that are also operating in this region. But that's not true, by the way, if you go into Belgium. So these things, and there is data that we all have behind it. And then there are your own contracts with these carriers, which is the cost, which one you choose for that particular service. With Gen Zs coming in and the kind of transparencies that now we want to develop around sustainability, now a shopper also demands to know what are the carbon emissions I'm emitting by ordering this much, or by, let's say, choosing this as a delivery option. These are all the expectations, and there is a calculation that needs to happen in those milliseconds to be able to determine which is the best carrier that I need to select. This is what is happening really behind the scenes in milliseconds. Now, this is not automation. This is orchestration. This is where you need compute. This is where you need to build in systems which have connected data to be able to allocate carriers more smartly with, to the right data decisions. Now, think about the second part of it. Right now, only we have discussed the carrier side of it. What can carrier do? More critical side of it is what us as customers, because we raised hands and we all order online, right? What are our expectations? So we did a survey, and this is something that we run every year. And this time we did it with 500 plus enterprises in Europe to understand from supply chain leaders what their end consumers are talking about is top one word in their mind, their end consumers who are placing these demands. And this was the word cloud that came out of it. So the 3 things that European consumers across Europe are asking for is how much reliable, specific, and transparent can my delivery be? Speed is there, carbon emission is there. These are all important things. But reliability, specificity, and transparency, these are the 3 main things that all of us are asking. And what does that mean? If I'm living in Netherlands, I know that my kids have Wednesdays and Fridays as, half days at schools. And that is the day I usually work from home. That is the day I want Electrolux to deliver to me at home, because I know that I will be at home. That's the day I want to pick. But the problem is that this means a strain on Electrolux carriers and their capacities. But this is my choice. And because this is my choice, you need to fulfill it. That's the challenge that I'm throwing at you. And this challenge varies based on geography. Italy seems to be ordering on Tuesdays and Fridays more. We need to understand these slot preferences. We are thinking of consumer side. And to get on the next step, which is the monetization of these deliveries. We have been mandated now to find the way of monetizing these delivery options. So how do we segment our customers, and really where in the cart can we start, making logistics delivery offering as a product is now a question that all of us are trying to answer. And I think, Pavel, we discussed this specifically. Do you want to share how do you see this at Electrolux?
Yes, with pleasure. In Electrolux, we have so-called logistics product. So we sell, of course, the white goods, but we also sell the logistics products on top of that now. So what is the logistics product? It's basically all these added value services that the consumers are selecting on top of the appliance. So if you're home on Thursday or Wednesday with your kid and you want to have it delivered at that time, likely you will click that, but we'll charge you for that probably. Or we'll offer you the price to pay if you want to have this delivered at this time. So we know that for the premium services or for the extra services, the consumers are ready to pay. So for us, obviously, it makes sense because the product is already, being bought, so the consumer is already willing to take it. So, and it's a little bit extra that the consumer is paying for the convenience, and we're charging for that. So that's the way we monetize the, this extra value-added services next delivery or specific time slot or specific installation services.
Yeah, and interestingly, that's another area where data and AI can help us a lot, right? To understand these type of consumer behaviors across different geographies. Gartner actually has given a framework, which I really liked. We were discussing about this, of how to think of segmenting your customers if you're thinking of monetizing at the checkout. And this is just an example. I think a lot of times, what we are doing is the plain vanilla solution is anything which is a standard delivery is free. Anything which is express is, let's charge it. That applies to all our customers. I think what we still need to do, and Gartner very well explains this, is we need to understand the different types of persona and their journeys separately. If we understand them well, then we'll be actually able to monetize that well, and we'll still be able to have high customer lifetime value. And this is just one good example where there is one premium customer who expects a certain kind of complexity, alteration, specific shipping options, and you can actually monetize it. Versus there's one which is someone like me, more informal, off the track all the time, because my wife told me to get a oven 3 weeks back. I've still not got it. The best thing that I can do is run to a media market or some place and just get it ASAP. And I'm honestly, if I'm going to a store, there's only so much that you can do with me. But the fact is that as Electrolux, you want both the customers. But you cannot charge both the customers. If you understand the needs, the different propensities from which customers are coming. So this was a good example of that. So this is what customers are all about, and we need to think of all these data points while thinking of where to monetize. And the last part of it is the delivery planning optimization. Let's see this more as a persona, which is our planners, our own employees, in the organization who are planning, dispatching, and thinking about logistics. And what are we giving them to be able to plan better through AI? So this is just one example where this is actually one of our customers' data, not Electrolux. What you see on the map is basically, if the more darker red a particular hexagon is, it means higher service time. So the example, which is, let's say there is a third floor and something needs to be delivered, the service time for that will always be higher than an area which has row houses, which means that the kitchen by default will be mostly on the ground floor. Now, that's understanding that you don't need to put a standard 1 hour, 45 minute, or let's say a standard 2 hour service to every wet connection. This is a complexity that we all know. But today there is usually, in all of the organizations that we have worked with, there is a rule book. If it's a wet connection, 2 hour. If it's a dry connection, 1 hour, 30 minutes. Nobody actually talks about third floor. So we know the problem, but we have never rewritten our rule books to actually accommodate those problems. AI learns that. Machine learning learns that. And then it recommends. Now, what is the impact of it? If you think about it, if we understand this data the way it is right now on presentation, we know that something should not take 2 hours in certain specific geography and location. It should take 1 hour, 40 minutes. We are actually freeing up our carrier capacity effectively, which means that we can possibly take more orders in. We can reduce the cost per delivery. What do you think about this, Pavel? I think we had really good exchange on this.
Yeah, indeed. And I think in this example, you look into the hours and it's 20 minutes in between. So if you take the whole day, then it's one extra installation that you can do. So one extra sale the same day.
Exactly. So that's how, you can actually use AI, machine learning, some of these applications to not only solve, but actually to impact some of the core metrics that all of us are actually responsible for day in, day out. And these metrics, I think we all are aware of and we are all responsible of mostly. But in just that example that Pavel, you were saying in the previous one, we are basically what the core metric that we are impacting is SPORH, which is stops per on-road hour. How much more a particular driver and an installer can do per every hour. So if we are improving that, we are reducing the cost per delivery. It's as simple as that. But in the process, if we are looking at all the data as in some of these applications as AI, we thought and we saw the examples, these are some of the actual tangible numbers that we have been able to impact for some of our customers. And obviously, it's not a 6-month journey. It takes time because nobody has documented all these problems as is, as we have tried to put it on the slides. And there are every time we get into conversation, there are new use cases that you find, there are new edge cases that you find, new customer behaviors that you find, which demand that we change certain things in our rule books. But the truth is that AI, and those were the examples, AI, if we are not thinking of that only as automation, but more as the orchestration of all these complexities and to consider all this context. This is where actually Gen AI is good at, where if you give it all of this context, it can make sense out of it and recommend something which makes sense. So this is where AI really helps. So maybe just as key takeaways to wrap it up, I think there are three key takeaways that Pavel and I discussed, and we felt like that we definitely want to share as a takeaways for all of us who are here. One is, let's use AI as orchestration, not just as automation. Most of us are still thinking, can I automate A, B, or C, one of the tasks? Okay, you may be able to save certain human resources behind it, but there's still a lot larger money which is there, which is waiting for us if we start thinking of AI as an orchestrator in real time. Think of this as a system which is doing intelligence at scale. This is what AI can really do. Second thing is, of course, specific to big and bulky. CX disaster is obviously every delivery failure is a CX disaster. It is irrespective of big and bulky or parcels. But the truth is that every time such a big and bulky thing needs to be brought back, it inherent causes damages. And that's a huge cost which wipes away a lot of margins. And hence, first attempt delivery rates, being proactive about some of these things while communicating to the customers. Delivering to the specific slot windows is not only about optimization. If you think about it, if I've picked up a slot because I will be home at that time, which means better customer experience, lesser first attempt delivery rates. So it's that also. And the last and not the least, of course, is the technology serves the business needs. And I think we all understand that. But majority of us also understand, and this is again a Gartner data which says that only 17% of the supply chain leaders are confident that we have the data in the right shape today to put AI into application. And that's true because we have 7 different versions of ERP running in the same organization. Most of us, some of us, and some lesser. But this tech and data can actually build resiliency at scale if we start just connecting some of these dots together. So yeah, that's it from our side. Thank you.
Perfect. We have some time for questions, which means that if you're brave enough, as I indicated, you may stand up or hold up your hand or interrupt me at any point in time. But while you think of your questions, I'm curious. So you talked about customers and how customers are so important to, of course, use the products that you sell. So Pavel, I'm really curious. So in what ways do you think, or have you experienced, that logistics innovation can really enhance the brand reputation, but of course also drive that long-term customer engagement and loyalty to the end?
Yeah. Yes, indeed. So the delivery for us is a part of the brand. It's given. So the consumer goes and shops online, buys our products, and we deliver. We also deliver through the marketplaces as well. So the consumer expects certain level of delivery and the speed. And again, we talked about all these parameters. So the consumer expectations are super important. But again, to manage these consumer expectations, we really need to understand what we can deliver, right? What we can promise, what we are confident to do. Because if we fail, what happens? They rank us right away. So they give us bad ranking. Good ranking it takes a bit of time to deserve, but bad ranking, people really give you easily and happily sometimes as well. So, and the ranking, if you go to the marketplace, for instance, and you see like one supplier is 4.9 and the other one is 4.0, you'll probably choose the one that is 4.9, right? So for us, this is the money. These rankings are the money now. So, if we lose on the customer expectations, we'll lose the money in the future. Simple as that.
Simple as that. And one audience question, I think it's especially for you, Angad, which is, when AI makes a proposal, do you know why it suggests that option?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because anything which is a black box, it's very tough to trust it.
Yeah.
And I think we are not there yet, honestly, but some models are getting there. For example, DeepSeek, when you ask a question, it actually shows you what all it is thinking from which all sources, while it has not even generated answers. So DeepSeek went that way, but of course, the other models didn't go that way. I think the way we are trying to design at FarEye is the why should always be in the design, so that you know the reasoning of it. And honestly, this is what we figure out. For example, when we started working with one of our customers based in Sweden, not Electrolux, but some other customer, a large retailer, this AI orchestration, when it was doing, and it was automatically generating routes based on the slots, etc. So it's not even a dispatcher clicking and generating routes. It was just automatically doing it. The propensity for the dispatchers to accept it was very low, because they cannot just trust some system generating routes, and that's what the drivers will have to follow. And it took around 3.5 months for the dispatchers to spend less than 60 minutes on that plan. Before that, they were spending up to 4 hours to edit that plan, look at each route, which means that it took them some time to really believe it. The why is system doing it that way, and why is it better than what I've been doing since past 20 years. So I think if it is not in design, it's tough to trust. We are attempting to ensure that whatever we are designing the why in the design. And I think that's the only way AI will get adopted. So, but honestly, we are not there yet. All of us need to really work hard to get there.
Yeah, so cracking the black box. And I think one of the dimensions that now is added to the game, besides just costs and customer expectation and meeting that, is also, of course, the topic of sustainability. And Pavel, we had one question here, which was, how much is your sustainability ambition impacted by trying to fulfill everything your customer is asking?
That's a great question. So for us, sustainability, for Electrolux, sustainability is the core. It's one of our competitive advantages, I would say. So when we select the carriers, when we optimize the routes, this question of the CO emissions, it's definitely considered. And for us, again, there is a consumer who probably, again, in the remote area, and you probably think, okay, well, why you would drive there? Well, but the consumer also needs the appliance, right? And there is maybe nobody else that can deliver there as well. So we try to reach the customers wherever they need. Again, as I mentioned, Arctic Norway, well, fair enough. I mean, people living there, they still need a fridge, right? Or they still need a dishwasher. And maybe it's a small cottage, but still they need the appliances to have a good living there. So we try to make the consumer expectations, but of course, for us, again, the sustainability and CO2 topics are prevailing in choices of the carriers as well.
And if we look ahead in the future, what are some of the trends that you're really excited for in the retail logistics space? And maybe we can start with you, Angad. What are you excited for in that space?
Yeah, I think I tried to touch on it actually when I was speaking, which is intelligence at scale.
Yeah.
Think about, and this is the real power of AI in my opinion, which is think about a particular shipment in mid-mile getting delayed in, let's say, Milan, which leads to a slot reshuffling happening in Munich, which leads to a particular service or technician in Munich getting rerouted, which leads to an automatic proactive notification to the customer if all the systems are connected well, and freeing up the capacity. Now, this is again honestly, this is not automation. This is intelligence at scale. There are up to 10 to 15 different software that exist today between the scenario that I was saying. And that's why it's tough to do today. AI understands the context and the AI agents, which is the next gen, after Gen AI, the next generation of AI, which we are speaking about, agentic AI, is actually poised to do it. And we just need to ensure that we move towards it. I am genuinely excited that this can happen. yeah, and I honestly look forward to it. In my opinion, this will happen within next 4 to 5 years.
Exciting times ahead. Pavel, maybe to close it off, what are you really excited for in the coming years in terms of retail logistics and innovations that might support, your journey in satisfying big and bulky deliveries at customers?
Yeah, we see that the number of installation service requests is increasing. And surprisingly or not, it's because of the generations shift. Because the new generation is less DIY, so they expect the providers, the service providers, to do the work for them. And to time this delivery installation, this is so critical for the experience. So if I would dream about a certain solution that the carriers or our partners would be able to provide, is to match these two deliveries and installation as perfectly as possible, so that we can also promise the best consumer experience in the future.
That would be lovely. Thank you so much for joining us. At 7 o'clock, there will be a really interesting keynote if you're curious. For now, thank you so much for sharing your stories. And if you have any questions, they will still be around. So if you have any AI black box questions, I think they're happy to answer any of them. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.